when you talk about the person in Christ, um, there's he's like our clever one. Yeah, we got a story like that. When it comes to understanding the one who's a provider, yeah, we got a story like that. So there is a sense in which that sense of grappling with spirituality, you know, mainstream folk bring these words spirituality or, you understand, you know, it's funny, but for me, it's when we start compartmentalizing, I think it's, you just go, because our language, for me, my language is a little bit more, when we tell a story, we can find a little bit better of understanding of what we're talking about. Rather than talking about how does that thing that we're talking about fit within a story? Or narrative, and I think that's part of how we come to for me anyway. So story is embedded in country.
And story rises from country.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I connect with others. So the first thing when he says, where do you want to have a conversation? Well, let's come up here on country and have a look, and we'll have a conversation probably. Here I'm comfortable.
And what are we looking at the moment, Richard? Tell me what is
So this place here, I think is one of those places where I can look and we did, you can see now where we just went through, there's the graveyard's just over here, the cemetery. If you went on a little bit further, there's the Algrave Cemetery. Here, this is Francis Creek. But, and I don't mind this space here because the mission is just around the corner. But this is what we would have called the farm area back in the day, and there was a lot of people talk quite fondly of this space because there was good activity in it, or productivity, so yeah. But when country speaks in a way where I look at there and I say, well, if you want to engage with creation, you not only look at the beauty of creation, but you also look at the brokenness of creation. And sometimes the brokenness of creation is one of those spaces where it actually sobers our conversation.
Do you look for the hope in that brokenness too?
Well, you have to, but it's one thing to sit up on the mountain and go, oh wow, isn't creation beautiful? But I come down here and I say, oh wow, in the brokenness community, if you see you have some great conversations. You have conversations of hope. You have conversations of people dreaming about, conversations of pain, of survival. I mean, yeah, those are great conversations.
Yeah, and it was really lovely meeting Levin yesterday and hearing about his experience going away to boarding school and not really wanting to be there. But realising for him to be a leader back in community, he needed to finish what he'd started and come back and continue on. So, and he's got lots of learning to do, but he seems to be one of these young people that are prepared to get in and start his journey and be connected up with yourself and elders and just do what needs to be done, do the work. Because a lot of what I hear from the elders that I talk to when I'm around is that they're just waiting for the young ones to come and talk to them. They're waiting for the young ones to come and learn and find out who they are in relation to history and future.
Yeah. Oh. And sometimes I think, more often than not, they're actually using a cultural farmer in terms of they're looking for people who will be able to hold the story.
Yeah.
And it's not so much writing. They're writing with purpose, but they're writing for the right, and the one or two who can hold that story.
Yeah.
So your Javans, they're few and far between. But we know that, when they come along, you go, okay, we need to find them. We need, as uncles, as elders, or aunties, we got, yeah. And even when he was talking about that, his we're sitting in the square, and his grandma comes along and he says, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I love the fact that we just saw the female voice come into his story, and he told her what it is he was doing, and she went, "Oh, is that what you're doing? Have a think about it." She didn't give me an answer, but have a think about it. And then she walked on her way, and I just went, "Oh, gee, that's precious. That's absolutely precious."
What am I going to think about?
Yeah. Because he had a trajectory, and then he hears this voice, and then he goes, "What was that all about?" Really interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And that's kind of discernment, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely discernment. So, but but this journey, this this again, it's funny. You talk about, and people talk about indigenous spirituality, and I just go, damn. The things that I do isn't new in terms of how I engage, but also we've got other folk who, in our stories, who have done the same. I mean, if you think about, the gurus who withdraw, and you talk about people who go up into the mountains and the monks and that kind of stuff. But then, there's this, that central character who withdrew to the wilderness, in Christ when he was troubled. What does he do? He withdraws to the wilderness, and he has a conversation. He doesn't have a conversation with himself. He has a conversation with his Creator, and then tries to work that out. But then he comes back into community, and he's having conversations with the woman, or Reverend, and then and I think there's this touring and froing of going into the world and then coming back out, and then in terms of the empowerment model, he calls 12 helpers, and instead of constantly going withdrawn by himself, every now and then he'll sit with those 12 and have conversations about what they saw and do some action reflection and that kind of thing, and trying to discern in community what it is that. Now, part of me, I think, that's the struggle of weighing up the pros and cons and what you're seeing and what you're, I don't know why it is, but I know I'm not an accountant, but my sister used to talk about, bank reconciliations, and I'm just going, wow.
Oh, one side in, one side out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got to figure that out, and there was a sense in which, that's a transactional type sort of thing, but I think we do that sort of thing. There's a lot of trade-off and, or whatever it is, but at some point in time you've got to balance the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just to close off the conversation, which was another deep conversation, which we just have naturally with you, is
Sorry.
what's your hope for the next 5 years? You were talking about you're talking about your plans for the environment here, but if you could see a vision for 5 years, can you give us a little bit of that?
Oh, I wouldn't say that I've got a vision. I think I've got a role and function to. Well, sorry. Let me have for me, there's a sense in, I think I started um, this initial thing of, finding your place or or your sense of belonging. Then you have what's your obligation, more cultural obligation is part of that. But then you've got to also identify what's your role and function. And I think as individuals or as organisations, we have to do that. What's our set to a number of organisations. You've got to name your lane and try not to be something else. Something that you're not. So definitely I don't aspire to be a mayor or but um, there's a sense in which I feel like my role is guide.
Mm.
Um, helping people to find their place in space. When you have that conversation with Java, and he says to me every now and then, he says, you're all about business. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, when people come up to you and they've got something, and I said, oh yeah, but what he was saying is that he's observing that I have a particular role in a particular function, and you're a resource to people, but you're not I think there's a role of enabler, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And what could be good for young people? Because I worry about those young people that are disconnected or don't know their family, and fear coming back, fear making their way back because they're going to be judged.
yeah.
What would you say to those young people?
Well, yeah. Once you find, yeah. For most, I think I have this mantra. Once you find your place in your space, then you will find your role, and hopefully you'll find. Hopefully you'll be able to identify um, what is it that you're called to do, and yeah. But if yeah, and I think that's been part of all of our journeys. If you have a look, there's a sense in which we've had to try and figure out through the brokenness of of our stories um, that that it was about trying to find our sense of belonging, and we do. I always say, well, I'm in the Wagyu man. Grew up there. That's my sense of belonging. I've got a strong sense of belonging. Here, definitely, I've got a sense of belonging, but also I've got a role and function here, which is different to what I have over here. And so I wouldn't be saying anything different to a young person. I was just saying this has been my story because when I was your age, I was probably, I wouldn't say lost, but I was looking for direction.
Yeah.
When yeah. And so
we all go through it in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah, it's not a new story. It's an old story. I think there's a sense in which some people, when they feel like they've arrived, they'll go, got that qualification, whatever. Then I think, gee, be careful, because life is a bloody journey. I don't think we ever finish it. Seriously.
No.
I'm just passing through.
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you so much for the last couple of days. It's just been beautiful.
Look at that guy out there.